Hello and welcome to UzReport World News, and my name is Bahram Gaffarov. Turkey's Coca-Cola İçecek has announced its intention to acquire Coca-Cola Bottlers Uzbekistan. Our company last night submitted an application to the State Asset Management Agency to become a participant in the first stage of the sales process, Coca-Cola İçecek said in a statement. The Uzbek government intends to sell 57% of its share in the authorized capital of Coca-Cola Bottlers Uzbekistan. The sale process is open to all stakeholders who meet several criteria. Among them is the experience of at least 7 years in the field of production and sale of soft drinks. Coca-Cola Bottlers Uzbekistan is the largest producer of carbonated soft drinks in Uzbekistan. It had a market share of approximately 47% in 2019, which was 70% more than its closest competitor. Over 30 countries are vaccinating their high-risk groups with COVID-19 vaccines, that the World Health Organization Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus on Tuesday. He also stressed to shun vaccine nationalism.
I urge all governments to work together and live up to their commitments to equitable distribution globally, and all pharmaceutical groups to boost supply as quickly as possible and to fully participate in COVAX. The 100-100 initiative, driven by WHO, UNICEF, and the World Bank, is supporting over 100 countries to conduct rapid readiness assessment and develop country-specific plans for vaccines and other COVID-19 tools.
Uzbekistan will erect a new reception center for COVID-19 patients in southern Tajikistan on the base of Uzbek model. Uzneftegaz, state-owned oil company, is assigned to fund the project that will be unique in the country.
The equipment that will be installed here will make it possible in the shortest possible time to detect infection and then promptly send the COVID-19 patients to receive qualified assistance to hospitals in the region. The construction of the modernized medical complex in Kubodiyon was started by the Uzbek side in the second half of 2018 and will be ready to receive patients by the spring of this year. The site is one of the projects of the Uzbek authorities approved during the visit of President Shavkat Mirziyoyev to Dushanbe in March 2018. In addition, with the framework of the agreement due to the financing of Uzbekistan in the Spitamen district of Sok, in September 2020, a new school for 630 students was commissioned. In response, the Tajik authorities announced that they would build a school for 640 students in Samarkand and a kindergarten in the Fergana region. The corresponding order was signed by the President of Tajikistan, Emomali Rahmon, in March 2018.
Uzbekistan's state-owned enterprise Uzkimyosanoat has announced its commissioning of its new $982 million ammonia and urea production complex at Navoiy Azot. The new complex has the capacity to produce 660,000 tons of ammonia and 577,500 tons of urea.
Navoiy Azot is one of the Uzbekistan's largest chemical plants. It produces mineral fertilizers by processing natural gas. Construction of the new world-class complex began in September 2016 to replace two outdated and energy-inefficient facilities built in the 1960s. The new complex produced its first urea on 23rd of December 2020. New products are expected to be exported to neighboring countries in the region, as well as Turkey, Ukraine, and Georgia. It was financed by the loans of Japanese banks worth $577 million, including the loan of the Fund for Reconstruction and Development of Uzbekistan at $320 million.
South Korea's Evergreen Motors is to spend $1 million on building a car market in the Tashkent region of Uzbekistan, according to the regional administration. A memorandum for the investment was signed on January 5th. The agreement provides for the construction of a centralized complex where, in addition to the sale of the cars, service stations will be built. 1 hectare of land has been allocated for the facility. The project is to be completed in the fourth quarter of this year. Uzbekistan's state-owned Uz-Auto car manufacturing plant intends to expand into Azerbaijan market starting from January 2021. This was announced at an extended session of the Senate on Tuesday. The event also saw Uzbek envoys in the CIS region and discussed the agenda for the near future.
Initially, the ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary of Uzbekistan to Azerbaijan noted the efforts to support regional collaboration following the roadmap for the 2021 Agenda on Trade. The event also discussed a video conference attended by the members of the Cooperation Council of Turkic-speaking states, chaired by Azerbaijan in April 2020, and the plans to produce 9 models of UzAuto vehicles in the Republic in 2021. According to Bahrom Ashrafkhanov, the key events, including the scheduled official visit of President Ilham Aliyev to Uzbekistan, are temporarily suspended due to the pandemic. Uzbekistan's envoy to Belarus, Nasirjon Yusupov, spoke of the bilateral cooperation in the education sector.
The field of education is one of the most important. Higher educational institutions in Belarus have long been known for their quality education. Last year, cooperation was established between 17 higher educational establishments of Belarus and 30 higher educational establishments of Uzbekistan, and joint programs were introduced.
According to Yusupov, around 2,700 Uzbek students will be able to complete their 3rd and 4th year of studies in Belarus.
Uzbekistan has introduced temporary restrictions in the schedule of gas supply to automobile gas filling stations. The operating hours will be from 3 p.m. to 5 a.m. All 14 gas pumping units have recently suspended their operation, and this has led to a temporary shortage of gas. The government also said that gas consumption has increased several times due to cold winter. The Ministry of Justice of Uzbekistan has released the most popular children's names in 2020. Uzbek families have named their daughters Saliha 18,616 times, whereas 19,383 boys have received their other most prominent Islamic name, Muhammad Ali. The statistics shows these names are on top of positions 2nd year in a row. Thus, Muhammad Ali was given to 11,305 babies and the name of Saliha 12,461 in 2019. The Islamic Development Bank will allocate $35 million loan to the reconstruction of 2 sections of the Tashkent-Termez highway with a length of 21 kilometers. The remaining sum of $40 million West project will be covered by the Uzbek side.
The IDB that will provide the loan for 20 years has already participated in the reconstruction of 100 kilometers of the Tashkent-Termez highway before. The project cost was estimated at $167 million and was constructed by the Azerbaijani company Accord Industry Construction Investment Corporation.
The Department for the Tourism Development of the City of Tashkent administration has announced a massive construction project in the hospitality industry in 2010 and 2023. It said it expects over $900 million of investment. It's planned to implement 90 projects comprising 66 hotels, 12 shopping and entertainment centers, 9 parks and 3 craftsman centers. At the same time, these facilities will provide over 6,000 permanent workplaces for locals. Uzbekistan plans to increase the base calculation value from $21 to $22 from February the 1st. The value is an indicator that is used to determine the amount of taxes, fees, duties, fines and payments for public services. This means that all about payments will automatically rise next month. A recent presidential decree also provides for the increase in the salary of employees of budgetary institutions and organizations, as well as scholarships are set to increase by 10%. The minimum monthly wage in the country will rise to $71.48 from current $64.97. Uzbekistan Airways has received a new Airbus A320neo. It became 12th Airbus in the company's fleet and the 3rd in a row for neo.
The aircraft is equipped with economy class for 138 seats and business class for 12 seats. Also on board, there is a modern complex of multimedia systems and the internet. The Airbus A320neo is 20% more fuel efficient than its predecessors thanks to the new LEAP-1A engines and the modern developments in the fuselage structure. The flight range of the liners has been increased from 4,500 to more than 6,000 kilometers.
With less than a month left in office, U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Tuesday banning transactions with 8 Chinese apps. It targets apps widely used in China, though not as popular in the United States, such as WeChat Pay and Alipay. It's a move sure to ratchet up already high U.S.-China tensions. A senior official told Reuters it's meant to head off the threat posed by Chinese apps, which have large user bases and access to sensitive data. The order claims data collection by Chinese apps would, quote, permit China to track the locations of federal employees and contractors and build dossiers of personal information. A U.S. official says the order gives the Commerce Department 45 days to define which transactions will be banned, but that the department plans to act before Trump leaves office on January 20th. But any new transactions prohibited by the Trump administration are likely to face court challenges similar to when it sought to block transactions with WeChat and TikTok under an earlier order signed in August. That order would have effectively banned the app's use in the United States and barred Google and Apple's app stores from offering them. The Chinese embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Sufferers from rheumatoid arthritis taking AbbVie's drug Humira may face higher prices this year. Healthcare research firm 46 Brooklyn says AbbVie raised prices on around 40 drugs, including a 7.4% hike on Humira, the world's top-selling drug. It's one of the more than 500 drugs in the U.S. that 46 Brooklyn says kicked off 2021 with higher list prices. It says nearly all the increases were below 10%. The median hike was down slightly from last year at 4.8%. Bristol-Myers raised prices on roughly a dozen drugs, including the price of its blood thinner Eliquis by 6% and cancer drug Revlimid by 4.5%. It said it only raised prices on drugs with ongoing clinical research. It expects net prices to fall this year after factoring in rebates and other discounts. Last week, Reuters reported that Pfizer plans to raise prices on more than 60 drugs by between 0.5% and 5%. The industry's price hikes come as the pandemic has reduced doctor visits and demand for some drugs. Drug makers are also fighting the Trump administration's price-cutting rules that would reduce the industry's profitability. Since 2015, drug price increases have slowed substantially. But 46 Brooklyn says the average cost per branded drug is still inching upwards. It notes pharmaceutical manufacturers are cycling out cheaper brands that treat large populations, replacing them with pricier brands designed to treat smaller populations.
A string of hacks of U.S. federal agencies and corporations identified last month likely originated in Russia, the U.S. Director of National Intelligence said on Tuesday. A joint statement issued by federal security agencies said the hackers' goal appeared to be collecting intelligence rather than any destructive acts. They said they had identified fewer than 10 agencies that were hacked, although added that the investigation is ongoing and more government victims may be identified. The statement is the first concrete attribution of the incident by the Trump administration. Meanwhile, Russian officials have denied involvement and did not immediately respond to questions. Security company FireEye, which was itself breached, discovered the new round of hacks, many which were later traced to a tainted software update from the network management developer SolarWinds. As many as 18,000 customers downloaded the updates at companies like Microsoft and U.S. federal departments, including Defense, State, Treasury, and Homeland Security. The breach is considered the worst known cyber compromise in the last 5 years. Previously, President Donald Trump suggested the hackers could be from China, but Secretary of State Mike Pompeo quickly said in a radio interview that it was, quote, pretty clear that it was the Russians that engaged in this activity. Meanwhile, President-elect Joe Biden criticized the president's response and has promised an overwhelming focus on the hacks when he assumes office in January.
Hong Kong authorities arrested dozens of ex-lawmakers and pro-democracy campaigners in early morning raids on Wednesday. It's the biggest crackdown yet against the opposition camp since the city's national security law was brought in last June, with more than 50 people taken into custody on suspicion of violating the law. According to the Facebook page of the Democratic Party, Wednesday's sweeping arrests included former lawmakers and activists James To, Lam Shek Ting, and Lester Shum. the Democratic Party said police arrested the activists for participating in an independently organised, unofficial primary in July to select candidates for last September's legislative election. In the end, that vote was postponed for a year due to public health restrictions. The pro-democracy movement had hoped to win a majority, and some candidates wished to use it to block government proposals, which the Democratic Party says was seen as an act of subversion in violation of the national security law. Local media said Wednesday's police operation included searches of the offices of the Hong Kong Public Opinion Research Institute and lawyers who helped organise the primaries. The Hong Kong government and Beijing warned that the unofficial primaries could violate the national security law. Under the law, anything Beijing broadly defines as secession, subversion, terrorism and collusion with foreign forces is punishable by up to life in prison. The latest arrests have drawn widespread criticism from rights groups and activists, who accuse Beijing of further undermining democratic freedoms in the former British colony.
At a summit for Gulf leaders on Tuesday, Saudi Arabia pushed a deal that would end a long-running dispute with Qatar. Saudi Arabia's foreign minister, Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, promised to end a boycott imposed on Doha in 2017, with the aim of strengthening an Arab alliance against Iran.
Today is a complete erasing of all disagreements and a full restoration of diplomatic ties. It will hopefully be a strong pillar for the future and stability of the region.
Member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council and Egypt severed ties with Qatar in 2017 over allegations that Doha supported Iranian-backed terrorism. Qatar denied the claims. In response to the Saudi foreign minister's statement at the Gulf Summit, Qatar's counterpart tweeted that the two countries have, quote, closed the page on disagreement. The negotiations followed mediation efforts by the United States and Kuwait, as both Saudi Arabia and Qatar share military ties to the U.S. and tension with Iran. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the United States welcomed the proposed deal, calling it a, quote, breakthrough to restore Gulf and Arab unity. Washington is keen on pushing for a united Gulf front to contain the actions of Iran. Although Saudi Arabia's statement has signaled hope for mending its relationship with Qatar, Al Saud shared no detailed confirmation of a deal. Diplomats and analysts say Saudi Arabia is also pushing for the deal to show U.S. President-elect Joe Biden, who will be inaugurated in 2 weeks, that Riyadh is open to dialogue. Biden has said he will take a harder line with the kingdom over its human rights record and the Yemen war.
Music fans have to wait for the industry's biggest night. The 2021 Grammys Awards, originally set for January 31, have been postponed to March 14th due to the coronavirus surge in Los Angeles. The Recording Academy, which organises the Grammys, said in a memo that the ceremony was delayed after talks with health experts and musicians and was, quote, the right thing to do. Organisers were already planning a slimmed-down version of the usual glam, one without a traditional red carpet, without an audience, and without nominees. It would have been similar to last year's Emmys, where stars accepted the honours remotely. Organisers also said they were looking at staging some performances in small outdoor venues rather than downtown LA's Staples Center. But with LA experiencing a spike in coronavirus deaths and hospitalizations, and with residents urged to stay home as much as possible, the Grammys are pressing the pause button.
$146,000 a pop. JP Morgan went out on a limb Tuesday predicting the price of Bitcoin will soar. The digital currency is in the midst of a powerful upswing, surging over the past 6 months to a record peak just shy of $35,000 as investors look for an alternative to a weaker dollar and see Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. Now, JP Morgan says the price could go much, much higher, as this could finally be the dawn of, quote, digital gold, a new age of stability and acceptability for the world's biggest cryptocurrency. The investment bank said Bitcoin could rival actual gold and its traditional safe haven status. And that perception is likely to accelerate with a generational shift in investors. Bitcoin has now been around long enough for millennials to be more acquainted with it and not see it as an unproven, risky new asset. JP Morgan reasons that millennials will increasingly turn to so-called digital gold over the traditional hard stuff. But buyers, beware. Ever since its inception, Bitcoin prices have swung violently, resulting in several costly head fakes for novice investors.
The number of foreign tourists visiting Spain fell 90% year-on-year in November, according to official data, showing the devastating effects new travel restrictions has had for one of the bigger tourism destinations in Europe. According to figures from the National Statistics Institute, Spain saw some 19 million international tourists over the first 11 months of the year, around 78% fewer than in the same period of 2019. It also follows news that the number of Spaniards registered as jobless jumped towards 4 million in December, closing the year at a more than 4-year high. Joaquin Perez-Rey, the Secretary of State for Employment, is describing the data as bad, but also full of anomalies. He said that it should return during 2021 to, quote, numbers similar to what we had before the pandemic, provided the global health crisis did not worsen. Perez-Rey estimated that the unemployment rate stood below 16% at the end of last year. By contrast, during Spain's financial crisis of 2008, it peaked close to 27%.
So far, these were the latest news for today. Goodbye. Take care.